You became the strong one, didn't you? The one everyone leans on, the one who keeps going, the one who carries more than they talk about, the one who says, "I'm fine," even when they aren't. And after a while, being the strong one starts to cost you something. Something nobody sees, something nobody talks about. You know what breaks people slowly? Believing they were hard to love. Not hard to tolerate, not difficult to be around, not challenging in ways that are obvious and loud and visible, but hard to love that particular, quiet, devastating belief that something about you, something in the texture of who you are, makes love a little more difficult to give you, makes people a little more likely to leave, makes closeness something you have to earn rather than something you are simply allowed to have. That belief, that one, that is what breaks people slowly, not all at once. Not in a single clean moment you could point to later and say, "There, that is where it happened." But gradually, over years, over repeated experiences of reaching out and having the hand pulled back, of being too much and not enough in the same breath, of loving deeply and receiving it back only partially, only sometimes, only when you had somehow managed to need less than you actually needed. And I want to talk to you tonight. Not at you. Not to the version of you that has it together, that already knows what you're worth, that doesn't need to hear any of this. I want to talk to the part of you that is tired, the part of you that has spent so long wondering if you are the problem. The part of you that has apologized for things that did not require apology, shrunk into shapes that did not fit your body, and tried, with everything you had, to become a version of yourself that was a little easier to love. That part of you is the one I'm here for tonight. And I need you to know something before we go any further. You were never hard to love. Not once. Not ever. It started with a word, or maybe a look, or maybe just a tone of voice that landed differently than it was perhaps intended. Though perhaps it was intended exactly as it landed. Sensitive. You were called sensitive. Not as a compliment, not in the way that sensitivity is a gift. The ability to feel things deeply, to notice what others miss, to be moved by beauty and by sorrow and by the ordinary moments that most people walk straight through without pausing. Not in that way. It was said like a diagnosis, like a problem you had, like something that needed correcting or managing, or that others needed to be warned about. Sensitive, as if feeling things was itself the issue, as if your capacity to be affected by the world around you was inconvenient, as if the depth of you was a burden that other people were graciously absorbing on your behalf. And you heard it enough times that you started to believe it. You started to look at your tears the way someone looks at a spill, something to be cleaned up quickly, apologized for, minimized. You started to feel the feeling, and then immediately feel ashamed of the feeling, and then spend more energy managing the shame than you had ever spent on the original emotion. It became exhausting in that particular way. Not the exhaustion of doing too much, but the exhaustion of constantly monitoring yourself, constantly checking whether this emotion was appropriate, whether this response was proportionate, whether this was the moment when you were gonna be too much again. People told you that you overreacted. That was the word they used, overreact. As if there is a correct, standardized, universally agreed upon amount to react to things. As if your nervous system was miscalibrated, and theirs was the control against which yours should be measured. As if your pain was not quite real enough to justify the response it produced in you. And you should perhaps experience a smaller, quieter, more manageable version of it that was less disruptive for everyone around you. Doubt yourself, not dramatically, not in one sudden collapse of confidence, but slowly. You would feel something, and a second later, a second thought would arrive. Is this real? Is this proportionate? Is this me being too much again? And you would hold the feeling at arm's length, examining it, before you were even allowed to simply experience it. You became a stranger to your own interior life. You learned to interrogate your emotions before you were permitted to feel them. The emotional checkpoint arrived before the emotion itself. And somewhere in the delay, something authentic got lost. That is not sensitivity. That is what happens to a sensitive person who has been told too many times that their sensitivity is a problem. That is the result of a gentle heart learning to apologize for its own beating. And then there was the other thing, the feeling of being a burden. It crept in somewhere in the middle of all of this, quietly, between the accusations of overreacting and the long silences that followed your tears. The feeling that your needs, not your excessive needs, not your dramatic needs, just your ordinary human needs for reassurance, for comfort, for someone to stay, were too heavy for other people to carry. That asking for them was an imposition, that needing was itself a kind of selfishness. So you started to need less, or rather, you started to perform needing less. Inside, the need was the same size it had always been. It didn't shrink just because you stopped expressing it. It just went somewhere else, somewhere underneath, somewhere behind the smile, and the "it's fine," and the "I'm okay," really. Somewhere where you could carry it alone, which felt, if not good, at least familiar, at least safe, at least unlikely to drive anyone away. And here is the cruelty of it. Carrying it alone felt easier than the risk of expressing it and being made to feel, one more time, that the size of what you felt was inappropriate. So you chose the loneliness that was private over the loneliness of being seen and still found to be too much. But you were never too much. You were simply surrounded by people who could not handle your fullness. And that is not the same thing. Your sensitivity was never your flaw. It was your fluency in a language that most people never learn to speak. It was the reason you could sit with someone in their pain without needing to fix it. It was the reason a piece of music could move you to tears, that a small kindness could fill you with disproportionate gratitude, that you understood things about people that they had never said out loud. That was not your weakness. That was one of the most extraordinary things about you. And the people who called you too much, they were not measuring you against some objective standard of emotional appropriateness. They were measuring you against their own comfort, their own capacity, their own limited ability to sit with feelings that were bigger than what they were used to managing. You were not too much for the world. You were too much for them. And them is not the world. There is a specific kind of pain that comes from not being chosen, not from being explicitly rejected, that at least has clarity, has an ending, has a moment you can point to and say, there, that is when it happened. But from the slow, ambient experience of not being chosen, of being present in someone's life without being quite visible to them, of being in the room but not quite in the room, of mattering but not quite enough. You have felt this. I know you have, the relationship or the friendship or the family dynamic where you gave everything and received back something that technically counted as care, but felt, in the body, like something closer to neglect, where you showed up completely, and the other person showed up partially, and somehow, you were always compensating for the gap, always making up the distance, always giving slightly more than you received, and telling yourself, it balanced out, it averaged out, it was fine. It was not fine, not because they were necessarily bad people, but because you deserved to be fully seen, and they were not looking. Being misunderstood is one of the most quietly devastating experiences a person can have. When the version of you that someone carries in their mind does not match the person you actually are. When they respond to their idea of you rather than to you. When they assign motivations you did not have and miss the ones you did. When your genuine expressions of love are received as manipulation. Your needs interpreted as demands, your care read as control. It creates a particular kind of loneliness that is more painful than being alone. It is the loneliness of being with someone and still being fundamentally, unforgivably unseen. And you tried to explain yourself. Of course you did. You tried to show them who you actually were. To bridge the gap between their idea of you and the real you, to help them understand your intentions and your heart, and the goodness that you were genuinely trying to offer. And sometimes they heard you, and sometimes they didn't. And sometimes they heard you, and then, a week later, misread you in exactly the same way as before. And you started to wonder whether the problem was that you were simply not explainable, not legible, too complicated, too layered, too much to understand. But you were not too complicated to understand. You were simply trying to be understood by someone who was not willing or not able to do the work of understanding you. Those are not the same thing. One is a flaw in you. The other is a limitation in them. And for years, perhaps, you took their limitation and wore it as your own inadequacy. Not being chosen is its own language. It speaks in small things, in the messages left unread for hours when you know they are not busy, in the plans made without you and mentioned only afterward, in the way they light up for other people in ways they never quite light up for you, in the absences that are never explained, in the presence that always carries a slight sense of being on loan. You learned to read that language fluently. You became expert at decoding ambivalence. You got very good at making meaning out of mixed signals, at finding evidence of care in the gaps between indifference, at convincing yourself that the small scraps of attention you were given were, in fact, enough. They were not enough. They were never enough. And the fact that you accepted them was not weakness. It was the natural response of a person who had been taught that the amount they received was the amount they deserved. You calibrated your hunger to match the rations you were given, and then forgot that you had been given so little. You deserve to be someone's first choice. You deserve to be chosen clearly, openly, without hesitation. You deserved love that did not keep you guessing. You deserved a love that was not a mystery you had to solve every single day. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Not with pain, or at least not only with pain, but with the recognition that what you have been living with was not the whole of what love can be. That the version of love you have known, the one that required so much effort on your part and so little on theirs, the one that left you perpetually uncertain, perpetually working, was not the standard. It was not what you were built for. It was a rehearsal for something fuller, something realer, something that does not leave you perpetually wondering whether you are loved or merely tolerated. At some point, without quite deciding to, you stopped saying the thing you actually meant. It happened gradually, the way rivers change course. Not in a sudden dramatic shift, but over time, the water finding the path of least resistance, slowly carving a new direction that eventually becomes the only direction you remember. You started to measure your words before you spoke them. You started to rehearse conversations in your head, not to be more eloquent, but to be less risky, less likely to provoke, less likely to make them pull away, less likely to confirm what you most feared. That if you showed them the full extent of what you needed, they would decide you were simply too difficult and leave. That fear of being left, it does something to a person. It does not just affect the moments of conflict. It seeps into everything, into ordinary Tuesday evenings and casual conversations about nothing, into the way you interpret a tone of voice or a delayed response, or a slight distance that may or may not be real. You became a seismologist of other people's moods. You learned to read micro-expressions, to detect the atmospheric pressure in a room before anyone had spoken, to anticipate a shift in temperature before it arrived, so you could adjust yourself accordingly. You were good at it. You had to be. Your sense of safety depended on it. walking on eggshells. That phrase, people use it casually. But I want you to really feel what it describes. It means moving through your own life, your own home, your own relationships, your own most intimate spaces, with the constant awareness that the ground beneath you could crack at any moment. That a wrong step, a wrong word, a wrong feeling expressed at the wrong time could shatter something that would be expensive to repair. It means never fully relaxing, never putting your full weight down, never trusting that the floor will hold you, and doing all of this while trying to appear normal, while trying to have a conversation, to share a meal, to make plans for next week, to be a person who is fine. The cost of that vigilance is not small. The human nervous system was not designed to sustain it indefinitely. When we are in a constant state of low-grade threat assessment, when we are always monitoring, always adjusting, always managing the emotional climate around us, something in us pays the price. We get tired in ways that sleep doesn't fix. We get anxious in ways that reason can't quiet. We get so accustomed to managing other people's emotions that we lose track of our own. We become experts in them. We become strangers to ourselves. And here is the cruelest part. You started to believe that this vigilance was love. That the effort of managing another person's feelings, of making yourself smaller so they could be more comfortable, of suppressing your own needs so that they would not be burdened, that all of this was what love looked like. What love required. You thought, this is what it means to care about someone. This is what it means to be a good partner, a good friend, a good child, a good person. To arrange yourself around another person's comfort and call it devotion. But devotion that requires the extinction of your own needs is not devotion. It is self-abandonment in love's clothing. And you had worn that outfit for so long that it had started to feel like your own skin. You were allowed to have needs. You were always allowed to have needs. Needing is not weakness. Needing is human. And you deserve someone who understood that. Someone who found your needs worthy of meeting rather than managing. The fear of abandonment is not irrational. I want to say that clearly. It is not a dysfunction, not a pathology, not evidence that something is broken in you. It is a reasonable response to a history of experiences in which people did, in fact, leave, or in which staying was conditional. Love was inconsistent. And you learned early that connection was not something you could count on. When the ground has shifted beneath you before. It makes sense that you would be cautious about where you place your weight.
You stated apologizing for things that did not require apology. I'm sorry for bringing this up. I'm sorry for needing this. I'm sorry for being upset. I'm sorry. And you would sometimes catch yourself mid-sentence with no clear sense of what exactly you were sorry for. Only the familiar pull of the word, the reflex of it, the way it functioned as a preemptive offering of yourself in exchange for continued patience. I'm sorry. I exist in ways that require accommodation. I'm sorry my feelings take up space. I'm sorry for being the kind of person who has feelings at all. The apology became a kind of armor. If you said sorry first, before anyone had a chance to be frustrated with you, perhaps the frustration would never arrive. If you offered your own inadequacy before anyone pointed it out, perhaps the pointing would be less sharp. If you made yourself small enough, perhaps you would finally fit somewhere comfortably. Perhaps someone would finally be able to love you without it costing them anything, because you had taken such care to ensure that you cost as little as possible. You learn to stay quiet, not the peaceful quiet of someone who is at rest, but the careful quiet of someone who has assessed the room and determined that speaking is not worth the risk. You bit back sentences that needed to be spoken. You swallowed responses that were true. You stayed silent in moments when you should have said, "This is hurting me." You stayed silent in moments when you should have said, "I need more than this." You stayed silent, and inside you, the unsaid things accumulated like stones, until the weight of everything you hadn't said was heavier than anything you had. You hid your needs, not because you didn't have them. You had them as much as you always had, as much as any human being has them. The need for reassurance, the need to feel secure, the need to know that you are loved not in general, in the abstract, in principle, but specifically. Today by this person, despite your flaws, including your complexity. Those needs did not disappear because you stopped expressing them. They went underground. They showed up sideways, in your anxiety, in your overthinking, in the way you read and reread a text message looking for evidence of either safety or danger. And you became expert at suppression, at feeling the feeling, and then folding it quickly, neatly, tucking it somewhere internal, where it would not disturb anyone, where it would not require a response, where it would not make anyone feel obligated or burdened or inconvenienced. You became, in a way, expert at being alone with yourself, even when you were with someone, because the self you showed them was always edited, always curated, always the version that had had its roughest edges smoothed and its most inconvenient needs removed. You thought you were being considerate, and perhaps, in some sense, you were. But you were also slowly disappearing. The you that you showed the world was becoming smaller and smaller, and the you that lived inside, full, complicated, needing, real, was becoming more and more alone. You never needed to earn your right to take up space. Your feelings were never too much. Your needs were never unreasonable. You were simply surrounded by people who found them inconvenient. And that is not the same thing as you being too much. I want you to hear this. The version of yourself that you hid, the full one, the one that needed things and felt things and wanted things that it did not always receive. That version was not the problem. That version was actually you, the real you. And all of those years you spent editing and managing and curating and suppressing. You were not improving yourself. You were disappearing yourself. And the part of you that knew it, that has always known it, that is the part that is listening right now. That is the part that brought you here tonight. That is the part that brought you here tonight. That part has not disappeared. She is tired. She is worn. She is wondering if it is safe to come back. It is safe. She can come back now. All of her. At some point you made an unconscious calculation. You decided, not in words, not in a moment you could identify, that love was not something you were simply given. It was something you earned. And so you began to earn it. You gave lavishly, generously, sometimes far beyond what you had to give. You gave time when you were tired, energy when you were depleted, attention when you desperately needed attention yourself. You gave because giving felt like the only reliable way to keep people close. If you were useful enough, helpful enough, available enough, perhaps the equation would balance. Perhaps what you offered would be significant enough to justify what you needed in return. Perhaps if you made yourself indispensable, they would not be able to leave. You over-explained. Every decision, every feeling, every need that escaped your careful management. You explained it thoroughly, with context, with justification, with a thorough accounting of why you felt what you felt and why it was reasonable, and why it should not alarm anyone. Because somewhere along the way you had internalized the message that your emotions required justification before they could be accepted. That you needed to provide evidence of the legitimacy of your inner life before anyone would be required to engage with it. You overextended. You said yes when you meant no, agreed when you disagreed, stayed when you wanted to leave, and smiled through things that deserved tears. You showed up for people who did not show up for you, and told yourself that this was what love looked like. That one-sidedness was simply the nature of caring for someone who needed more than they were able to give back. You made excuses for their absences and their inconsistencies. You interpreted their limitations as special circumstances rather than as patterns. You gave them the benefit of every available doubt, and sometimes the benefit of doubts you had to manufacture. You said, they are going through something. They are dealing with a lot. They would show up if they could. They do care. They just struggle to show it. And maybe all of that was true. But it was also true that you were alone in the relationship. And you were too loyal, too generous, too full of love to admit it. And underneath all of this, underneath the giving, and the explaining, and the extending, and the excusing, there was a belief, so embedded you barely knew. It was a belief rather than a fact. That you had to earn your place, that love was not freely given to someone like you. that you were, at some fundamental level, not the kind of person who people simply wanted without also requiring something. From that connection was a transaction, and you needed to ensure that what you offered was always slightly more than what you received, just to keep the ledger balanced. How exhausting that must have been. How deeply, relentlessly, heart-diminishingly exhausting. To live in a constant state of earning. To never be able to simply exist in someone's affection without monitoring it, maintaining it, working to keep it. To never be able to simply arrive. To simply be there. To simply be enough. Without any additional effort required. You were always enough. You were enough before the giving. You were enough before the explaining. You were enough before the adjusting and the shrinking and the earning. You were enough in the plain, unearned, given fact of your existence. People-pleasing is often talked about as if it is primarily about other people, about managing their feelings, keeping the peace, maintaining harmony. But it is also, at its core, a survival strategy developed by someone who learned that their authentic self was not safe to express. It is not a personality flaw. It is an adaptation. A very intelligent, very understandable adaptation to an environment that gave you the message, repeatedly and clearly, that the real you was too much, and that the only way to stay close to people was to become a version of yourself that needed less and gave more. You adapted. You survived. That was remarkable. And now, if you are ready, the adaptation can begin to change.